You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome to Be Humane on Pet Life Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Robin Gansard. We're back with another great episode today with some guests who each have unique perspectives on animal welfare. Up first is Leah Black, star of The Real Housewives of Miami. Leah is, of course, a huge animal lover. And if you remember, the very first guest on our first ever show was Joanna Krupa, also of The Real Housewives of Miami. So it's nice to see that there's both such animal advocates down there on South Beach. Following Leah is one of our favorite guests, American Humane Association's National Director of Humane Intervention, Justin Scally. Justin will stop by to talk about some very important pet safety tips around the July 4th holiday, which is just a few short days away. But before we get to those great guests, just a couple of bits of news to start off the show. I hope you have all had the opportunity to see the video of the heartwarming reunion between Corporal Aranda and War Dog Donna. Yes, thanks to the support of so many of you, we were able to bring this hero dog home so she could live out her retirement in peace and happiness with the man she spent her time alongside serving our country in Afghanistan. You know, one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, why does the military invest so much to train these dogs for use in war zones abroad, but not pay for their transfer back to the United States after their deployment is over? The simple answer, like with just about everything else, it's all about the money. I know we've talked a lot about this before, but it bears repeating over and over again. These dogs, these military working dogs, these contract working dogs are absolutely heroes, and they deserve a ride home, and they also deserve a retirement with integrity. And once they get home, they deserve to be treated as veterans, just like their human counterparts are. Of course, we've all been reading about the troubles human veterans are facing these days, which is just deplorable. But the fact is, military war dogs are just considered to be equipment, like a truck or a tank. And equipment is sadly, as we know, classified as expendable. The dogs are thankfully treated like royalty by their fellow soldiers, and we heard that from Sergeant Chuck Shuck, who was on just a few short weeks ago as he talked about military working dog, our hero dog Gabe. But in addition to keeping these soldiers safe, these dogs also really help to comfort the homesick, the injured, and they really help in grieving. The grieving process, the loss of a fellow soldier. Military war dogs are their rocks. Some of you might be asking what we are doing to change this. Well, on July 23rd, American Humane Association will be hosting a special briefing on Capitol Hill, where we will address members of Congress on the important issues of military working dogs and how vitally important it is to continue to care for them after their deployments and after their retirements. I encourage any listeners local to the Washington, D.C. area and those of you who are traveling to D.C. in the month of July to join us on Capitol Hill in room 210 of the Cannon House office building on July 23rd at 2:30. Be part of our briefing. Join our voice. We'll have several of these brave soldiers along with the dogs we've helped to reunite, as well as an appearance from Carlos, the 2013 Military Dog of the Year from the Hero Dog Awards. For those of you who can't make it, we're definitely planning on recording a show while there, so stay tuned for that one at the end of this month. And if you haven't listened, check out our show from just a few weeks ago when I interviewed Sergeant Jason Boss, who was reunited by the American Humane Association with his dog, Sela. Once you hear his tale, you'll understand why we're investing so much in bringing home, back to the U.S., as many military war dogs as humanly possible. And speaking of hero dogs, we're just about to kick off voting for the 2014 finalists. After more than 1 million votes in the first few rounds, it's now time to learn which dogs will be representing the 8 categories to compete for the grand prize, the 2014 American Hero Dog. Who will join the likes of Ellie the Pit Bull, Gabe, or Roselle as the top dog of the year? You know, it's all up to you and our special Blue Ribbon Celebrity Judging Panel. Voting kicks off on July 7th, and you can vote every day until September 15th. Just log on to HeroDogAwards.org starting Monday, July 7th, and cast your vote for the 2014 American Hero Dog. And of course, those of you that know this campaign know that we're in the middle of voting for the first ever Hero Veterinarian and Hero Vet Tech, sponsored by our friends at Zoetis. Visit HeroVetAwards.org until July 27th to read the stories, the heartwarming stories of the 5 finalists in each of the 2 categories. Our panels of celebrities and veterinary health professionals have narrowed down the nominees to the cream of the crop. Each of them is deserving of the title. But in the end, there can only be one Hero Vet and Hero Vet Tech. And it's up to you, listeners, to decide. You know, finally, been a bit of controversy going around the internet lately about whether or not it's okay to give your dogs ice. There are several articles saying it could be very bad for their health. Well, thankfully, America's veterinarian and proud American Humane Association board member Dr. Marty Becker has come to the defense of owners giving their dogs ice. Check out our Facebook page where we have some wonderful articles he posted dispelling this myth. And when it's this hot out there, there are a lot of other things you need to do to keep your pets cool. Check out my opening monologue from last week's show for helpful tips and advice. And speaking of heat, we're going to chat with the star of the Real Housewives of Miami. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Pet Life Radio. This is Dr. Robin Gansert, and be humane.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
It's dinner time in America, where more pet parents trust PetSmart for natural and expert-recommended foods than any place else. And now, we've added more than 100 new varieties to our already wide selection of your favorite brands, like Simply Nourish, Authority, Wellness, Science Diet, and more. Do what's best for your pet. At PetSmart, happiness in store.
Go to PetSmartDeal.com to find out this week's coupon code and save up to 30% on food, treats, toys, and more. And get free shipping on orders of $49. Go to PetSmartDeal.com. PetSmartDeal.com.
Pet Life Radio, the #1 pet radio network on the planet, joins forces with iHeartRadio to put the power of your pets in your pocket. Awesome. Download the iHeartRadio app and rock Pet Life Radio on your phone, on your tablet, on your Xbox, in your car. Pet talk, pet tunes, and fun pet times. Pet Life Radio and iHeartRadio. Positively Possum.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. It's our special July 4th episode today, and I'm sure many of you will be headed to the beach for the weekend. I know I am. I'm so glad the 4th is on a Friday this year. My first guest today, I'm sure, spends a lot of time on the beach, South Beach, that is. A star of the Real Wives of Miami, Leah Black first made a name for her beauty line, Sudden Youth Facials, back in the 80s. And after 20 years in the industry developing over 400 extraordinary products, she recently created Leah Black Beauty. Along with her husband Roy, they co-founded the Black's Annual Gala, which has raised millions of dollars over the past few decades to help troubled teens. Of course, she's joining our show today because of her love for animals. I'm pleased to welcome Leah Black to today's show. Leah, how are you?
Everything's great and marvelous. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know you have a home in South Beach, but I understand this summer you're spending the entire summer in Los Angeles. How's that going?
Yeah, we spend most summers in LA because we have a small house here in the Hollywood Hills. And the weather's great. And, you know, we all come, myself, my son, Freda, the housekeeper who really is retired, who just lives the lives of luxury, and the dogs. We all come.
I understand you've gotten some new dogs, maybe some puppies this summer. Can you tell us about your new puppies?
Well, what happened was, I've always had dogs. I started out having like Afghans, and then I went to Dobermans, and then I had a miniature pincher. And my miniature pincher died in March of 2.5 years ago. And I cried so long and so hard over that dog that I said I would just never get attached to another dog. And then my son started wanting a dog, and a friend of ours that had passed away left us his Doberman, and my son was playing with him, and the dog bit my son. And so I had to get that dog to a guy that wanted a guard dog for a business up in North Miami. So after that, my son was, Mom, I want a dog, I want a dog, I want a dog. And, he had to have 2 surgeries on his arm from that little tiny bite because it had gone to the bone. And it was the most precious dog. He just got scared. My son was trying to take a toy from him. And it was a dog we had inherited. So, we didn't know the dog well enough to know that it would happen. So we found a great home for him. And then after that, my son just kept begging for a dog. And then my other dog had died. And I was like, I can't. I'm not going through it again. I'm not going to break my heart. I can't. And then my maintenance man says, a friend of mine that lives down in the Redlands down in Miami, his shepherd got pregnant. And they have a litter, and they think it's going to be in Belgian Malinois and Shepherd mix, but they're not even 100% sure. So my son said, we want it. So we started going down and visiting this pregnant dog. And then when she had the other dog, it came out, and it was a Belgian Malinois and Shepherd mix, and they were beautiful. And he had like 7 or 8 of them. And, they had 2 kids, and they really could not afford 8 dogs, nor could they care for 8 dogs. So we took one, and of course I wanted to take 5, but we took one, and while we were there was another litter that he had just had where they had just moved to this new neighborhood, and his little terrier had gotten knocked up, and he had another litter he didn't know what to do with, so I took one of those too. So I came up with, came home in one day with 2 dogs, and then they just become like babies. They're like the love of my life. They've got the best of everything. They're getting dog training every week, and they're getting socialized at this posh place in West Hollywood. There's this place called Posh Dog Care, and they socialize them and train them and manicure them. And, we treat them like, of course, they're small enough to take on the plane. So we carried them and coddled them on the plane, and we just treat them like they're our little babies because they are.
I love it. Well, I think those puppies have won the puppy lottery. I really do.
That's what my husband said, because when we got home, it took us literally 3 or 4 flea baths to get rid of the fleas. And I felt so bad about the rest of the litter. I wanted to keep going down and getting them. And my little maintenance man said, don't worry, they found homes for them. They're finding homes for them. They're finding homes for them. I said, well, if they don't find a home for them, I'll take more. Because I felt so sorry for them. They had so many fleas because they were completely outdoor dogs. And in Miami, it's really hot and humid. And the fleas are a big problem if you're out in the middle of, nowhere, and they live really out in the country. So we love them so much. I mean, we're all in love with them.
I love that. And again, the puppy lottery, they're feeling that every day as they go off to Posh and everywhere else. I think that's wonderful.
The first day we socialized them for 3 hours because they're scared of other dogs, and they would bark when other dogs came around. Because we try to take them everywhere. And so I learned they need to be around other dogs. So I took them 3 hours the first day, and my son and my housekeeper and myself for 3 hours drove the street, just biting our nails, looking for stuff to do. Went into Target. We went into everywhere just trying to kill time until the 3 hours was up to go get them back. We couldn't get them back fast enough. And then the next time we left them 4 hours, and now they've been left as much as 5 hours, and now they're starting to like other dogs,
I love it. That is so wonderful. I understand you've been a lifelong animal lover. I mean, and I know how your son now has been introduced to animals. He'll love animals all of his life from now on because the way you've introduced him to puppies. And even after that dog bite, it sounds like to me that he's still just loving them.
Can you believe that? When he was at the hospital, he was crying that we were going to get rid of the dog, and he kept blaming himself and saying it wasn't his fault, and I tried to take his toy, and Mom, please don't get rid of him. And so he was in the hospital for like 6 days. So during the time he was in the hospital, I know, because he had to put a tube in and drain it, and then have another surgery. So it was a 5 or 6 day thing. And so while we're in the hospital, we made a full-time job of finding somebody, and one of the guys that used to work for me found a guy in Aventura that had one Doberman and really wanted two, because what he did is he created them in the daytime and let them out at night on the property as like guard dogs. So it was a perfect fit for the dog, because the dog is a great guard dog. You know, you come out and he's going to get you. Right. And so it was good for him. He had a companion dog, and the other dog had a companion, and the guy got what he wanted at night. And, you know, but we had decided we were going to do whatever we had to find a good home for him. And so we just really got lucky with that, you know, because when the dog bites somebody, a lot of people don't want to take a dog, but people that love animals understand that it can happen, and it doesn't mean they're bad dogs. It just means they got scared, you know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We just hosted just a few weeks ago at the National Press Club in Washington, our summit, our convening on National Dog Bite Prevention Week. And, you know, we just know that these dogs do get scared and anxious, and especially with kids around. Kids are the number one victim of dog bites. And we just know it's just sometimes just doesn't work. I know my little boy was bit when he was just a couple of years old. Now we have tons of dogs and tons of cats. He doesn't even remember it back then, but it is something especially for your boy to be in the hospital as long as he was, to have such a
and worrying about the dog. I know.
Compassionate.
So
I love it. I love it.
I know.
Tell us about your first animal. As a child, did you have cats or dogs or horses?
You know, we always had dogs around when I was little, because I lived in Texas, but they weren't like my dogs. They were like family dogs. So I never felt like I had my own dog. So the minute I was out on my own, I adopted. I found somebody that lived in an apartment that the dog was too big and they had to get rid of it, and it was a little Afghan, and I named her Casper because she was just as white as she could be, and that became my dog. And then I started working and traveling all the time, and I felt sorry for her, so I got a second Afghan, which was, I named her Brandy because she was the color of Brandy. She was a caramel color, beautiful little dog that I adopted from somebody else that didn't want a dog. And they didn't want her because she was wild and hard to control, and she was wild and hard to control. But when she got around the other dog, for some reason she calmed down, and they became like a pack, you know, and she kind of brought energy to him because he was kind of a quiet, kind of docile dog, and then he brought out, you know, the calmness in her, and she brought out a spunk in him. So it worked out really well until I went on a trip one time, and I had told someone to take them to the groomer and get their hair combed, and the groomer took it upon himself to cut all their hair all the way down and shaved it. When I came back and I saw these Afghans that had this long, gorgeous hair that we treated, you know, like they were supermodels. And then I wasn't there. They didn't comb it or nothing. This guy had cut it all the way. And I was just beside myself. I never recovered. But it grew back, and, you know, they got older, and, you know, and life goes on. And so I have gorgeous pictures of them. And then I got married, and then I got, you know, my first Doberman and my second Doberman and then my miniature Doberman, and then we got these dogs. So, you know, you're either a dog person or you're not. You know, some people are cat people or bird people, but I just love dogs.
That's beautiful. Well, I tell you, one of the most touching moments over the course of your show was the funeral of your beloved dog, Leroy. And, you know, where you said you'd never be able to get over his passing. You know, that was just so wrenching for all of us pet parents. It was incredible. Incredible.
That was difficult, too, because, you know, I kind of felt a sense of guilt because I had taken him to the vet, and he was having seizures and everything, and I felt like if I would have left him there longer, you know, maybe it would have been okay, but the vet said no, it was okay to take home, and sure enough, he had another seizure, and then he didn't make it, and I was just like devastated because that was the dog. When he was born, was literally big enough to fit in my hand, and I would put him in my bra under my shirt and put a scarf on, and I just took him everywhere. I'd take him to luncheons, I'd take him to work, I'd take him to the movie. Nobody ever knew I had him with me. So he was like 24 hours a day. Then he got a little bit bigger, and of course everybody knew he was with me, but by then he was so well trained and so well adapted that you could put him under your arm with your scarf over your shoulder, and no one would even really notice, because he was so well trained.
Aww.
And that was RJ's first dog, because RJ was born when I had that little dog, and so he died. That was a horrible thing, but those 2.5 years ago, I still think about it.
Oh, and and those of us that have those animals in our lives, we get it. We absolutely get it. I just love the way that you did introduce your son, who now has this great passion for animals because of you. And I know you do a lot of work for children. And your annual gala, you do a lot of work to raise money for children. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my husband's a criminal defense attorney. When I first married him, I came from a world of creativity and glamour and fashion and skincare and traveling to Europe, and never had a clue what went on in the criminal justice system. And I was so shocked when I saw that these people, the judges give these guys 20 years and don't blink an eye, and then your kids are with no direction, and then they become career criminals, and they start getting into trouble. And so this judge said to me one night, I was at somebody's birthday party, and he said, we have this little charity, and maybe you'll come and help us. We're trying to keep these kids from having to go to jail and get them a second chance. And I went over there, and they had, they had this little nothing artwork from, I don't even know where they had gotten it. It was just artwork like people on the street corner had drawn, and they were trying to sell it. And I just got up and sold it all, and I brought in $18,000 in money on nothing art. And I thought, people do want to help, because they wouldn't be buying this art and drinking out of these paper cups if they didn't want to help. They just don't have a way or how to help. So I started doing an event every year, and this will be my 20th year in October 25th in Miami.
Wow.
And it's just every year we've kept thousands of them out of jail, and hundreds are for sure, and sometimes thousands with second chances or intervention, or get social workers in there, or put in, there used to be a school in Miami that would house them that the state quit funding. So it's all the same. It's all whatever it is that you give to, whether it's, Breakthrough Miami or Teach for America or the school that's no longer there, all those places, because we don't do the servicing of the kids. We raise the money for them, but they all, we do it. We go to all the events, we get cash to the kids, but they do the hard work. We really raise the money. And we kind of aligned ourselves with the state. We've just done everything we can to keep as many kids out of jail and out of trouble as we can, because there's so many good kids that just don't know any different, or they make mistakes. One night I'm watching the television, and this little kid was 5 or 6 years old. They picked up on the street, he was drunk from beer, and he was 6 or 7 maybe. And when they got a hold of him, his excuse was he wanted to go to jail to see his dad, and he thought if he got in trouble, he'd get arrested to go see his dad. It's just such a tragedy, and people just want to throw away these kids and say they're not any good and put them in jail. And the truth is, a lot of them are just looking for direction. There's always a few bad apples, but for the most part, they're not bad kids. It's kind of like dropping off a pet instead of doing the right thing to, to turn them around and train them, So it's the same thing. You just have to do what you have to do. Try to help make everybody's life a little better. So we do it.
That's beautiful. Well, I know that there's going to be listeners who want to learn more about your gala and perhaps how they can get engaged. Is there a website that they can go into? What's that website?
Yeah, it's theblacksannualgala.com.
Perfect. Theblacksannualgala.com for listeners who want to learn more. Wonderful work. And it is so true. It's all about giving second chances for our kids, second chances for, our animals. And, American Humane has been working on children and animals issues now for almost 140 years as this nation's very first national humane organization founded for the protection of kids and animals. And, 140 years later, we still have so much work to do. It never gets any easier with all the challenges that we face. But I thank you for your laudable work.
Oh, my God. I used to go to those animal welfare charity events, and it was so much fun. They would model the dogs down the runway, and you could buy stuff from the auction. It was so much fun. You really should get a hold of Donald and Lisa Pliner. The big shoe designer, Donald Pliner.
Yes.
They just lost their dog, Baby Doll. That was the face of their line. They had that whole dog line, and he just wrote the most beautiful tribute to the dog, and she wrote a beautiful book they're getting ready to publish about the dog, and they would be interesting for your listeners to hear their story about that little dog, baby doll. It was the light of their life for, 13, 14, 15 years. When Donald would have his hair streaked, he would have baby doll streak his hair, her hair the same color, and it's a cute story, so you should really reach out to them.
That's wonderful. We'll do that. I had not known that about baby doll, that she had passed, so wow.
Yeah, this is sad. So they're still mourning it. It was about a month ago, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Well, on a lighter and more positive note, perhaps very fascinating note for our listeners, I know you've got a book coming out soon, and I love the title, Leah's Little Black Book, a tell-all novel based on Miami society. Can you tell us a little bit about what's in this tell-all?
Well, it started out, I wrote this about 4 years ago, and I had someone that wanted to publish, and I got really nervous because I thought these people are going to connect the names and the faces, and people are going to get mad. And then a woman that used to write for Vanity Fair read it, and she said, it's very Truman Capote-esque, and everyone's going to want to be in the book. Mm-hmm. They're going to say that they're in the book, whether they are or not, so put it out there. So I spent another year camouflaging the people. And I tried to camouflage as many people as I could and make it a little juicier and spice up the plot a little bit. So it could be out at the first of the year, but it's a story about a woman that runs a charity and her crazy socialite friends. And it's not really true, but it's based on a whole lot of composites of real people that could be recognizable. It's kind of Jackie Collins-esque, it just looks like a trashy novel, a trashy, suspenseful novel.
Well, that sounds like a good beach read. It's a shame it's not out right now for those of us
I know.
For July 4th.
Probably is. That's right.
I love it. That's great. Well, Leah, I tell you, we're so proud to know you, and I'm just so excited about all the great work that you do with your annual gala, how many kids you've impacted over those 20 years. That's a significant milestone for any charitable endeavor. But I really especially love those stories about those dogs and how they came into your life. What are you going to be doing over the July 4th holiday? Any special holiday plans?
Our friend in Malibu usually has a party. We may go up there, but my friend from Miami may be staying here for a few days. So we're trying not to commit ourselves to anything. We're trying to just live in the moment and take it day by day and try to slow down a little bit from the crazy pace. But we're still doing our work, from the phones and the computers and keeping the machine in place. We're just not driving ourselves crazy with social events for a change. And a lot of it depends on the dogs because certainly whatever we do will include them. And I don't know if my friend in Malibu is going to let me bring 2 dogs to his party.
I love
so
that.
So if he doesn't, we won't be there.
That's great. That's great.
This is just past July 4th. I'm not going to have them spend it alone.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope that if you are still in Los Angeles during our Hero Dog Awards weekend, we would love to have you come and celebrate the 4th Annual Hero Dog Awards, which will be taping from the Beverly Hilton on September 27th. So we'd like to get you some information, have you be our guest for this heartwarming evening, especially for someone like you who loves dogs. When you hear about these hero dogs, I know your whole family would be just so excited. So many heartwarming stories. We'd love to have you come.
Well, thank you so much, and it's been fun talking to you.
Oh, it's been a blast talking to you. It's been just such a great few minutes together. And speaking of the 4th of July, all pet owners must hear our next segment, which will be full of tips to keep our pets safe over the holiday weekend. And if you're like Leah, you're not leaving those pets alone. You're going to be with them. We want to keep them safe and feeling comfortable during all of those fireworks and during those family cookouts. So stay tuned. You're listening to Be Humane.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
Dogs leave fur wherever they go. It collects all over the home. There are many tools designed to stop dog hair spreading, but their effectiveness varies, and afterwards you have to clean the tool, then the floor. With the Dyson Groom Tool, you simply deploy the bristles, then gently brush the coat. Loose fur is removed, while dead skin and allergens are captured by the vacuum. And to clean up, you simply release the trigger.
To get this awesome Dyson Groom Tool, go to DysonDeals.com. That's DysonDeals.com.
Hi, this is Teody Anderson, and I'm the host of Get Positive Results on Pet Life Radio. We're going to talk about a variety of topics on canine behavior and training, all based on modern methods that are fun for you and your dog. We might be talking about other critters too, so join us on Get Positive Results. We'll talk about common issues between you and your dog, answer your questions, discuss different activities you can do with your dog, and keep you posted on current canine news and products. All this on Get Positive Results on Pet Life Radio.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Thanks again for joining us today. I'm sure all of you will be celebrating America's birthday this weekend. But did you know that Independence Day can be very precarious for pet owners? Here with more is Justin Scally, our National Director of Humane Intervention and Red Star Rescue Emergency Services, with a lot of helpful info to keep you and your beloved pets safe this weekend. Hi, Justin. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. I know, Justin, that you and I both get a little concerned about July 4th when we think about our animal friends. It can be just a frightening day for a pet. So can you advise people whether they should bring their dogs or their cats to firework displays?
You know, I think that the best and simplest thing to do for the Independence Day, 4th of July celebrations, is to keep your pets at home. Keep them at home. Keep them in a quiet, safe room where they will be safe. You know, a lot of pets, become startled with loud noises, particularly with fireworks and, with parties and festivities and all those things going on. It's just so much safer just to keep them at home in a quiet, safe place where you know where they will be and you know that they'll be okay.
That's great. That's great advice. I know that's what my puppies will be doing. But we know that July 5th, the day after America's birthday celebration, is often the busiest day at shelters around the country. Why is that?
That's a really great question, and part of the reason is because of the fact that there's so many festivities. It's one of the first events of the summer season. A lot of folks are on vacation, kids are out of school, and you're going to visit family and friends for different festivities. And what happens is that a lot of animals, they become startled because of the loud noises and everything going on, and they get out. Perhaps someone comes to a cookout and they leave the gate open, or they get scared and they jump the fence. And so what happens is that shelters are completely inundated with stray animals that come in as a result of the 4th of July festivities.
Wow. I know you've got a lot of experience working in shelters like the one in Kentucky, and certainly in your Red Star role, I know you're working out there in shelters all across the country. What advice would you give to shelter professionals out there who might be working during the busy holiday weekend?
Well, first and foremost, keep your head up. And I know it's a challenge, but work to get the message out there now. Let pet owners know the different things that they need to do now to make sure that they're able to be reunited with their pets. And some of those examples include things like making sure that, your pet has a proper identification tag. If your pet is not microchipped, consider getting him or her microchipped. And if they are microchipped, another very important thing is to make sure that information is up to date, because a lot of shelters find that, a pet may have a microchip and they're ready to return that pet to their rightful owner right away, but the information that is contained within the database is inaccurate. Perhaps somebody moved, their phone number's changed, so now is a perfect time to make sure that information is up to date, ready to go, and that way, if in the event you are separated from your pet during all this, that you're able to get your pet home safely and soundly.
Last summer, it's such a good point. Last summer, we found a dog wandering the neighborhood. The tag had a Connecticut phone number on it, and here we are in North Carolina. We dialed the phone number, and we were able to find out through a very roundabout way that the family that owned the dog had moved to North Carolina. So we were able to track them down and get the dog returned within an afternoon, a busy afternoon. But gosh, you're so right. Those names, those phone numbers need to be up to date. The tag needs to be up to date with all the contact information, because you just don't know what'll happen. People with pets that are already microchipped, it's also important for them to make sure those information on the chips are up to date, and they can do that pretty easily now, can't they, Justin?
Absolutely. There's a few different ways to do this. Number one for a microchip is to contact the company for which your microchip is from. And if you're not aware, you can certainly work with your veterinarian or your local animal shelter. Perhaps if you adopted your pet, you can check with them as well. And the other thing is that with the tags, you can simply go to a local store and get a new tag. And the other thing is pet licensing. A lot of municipalities have licensing out there, and, a lot of folks don't realize that that's also a mechanism to help return pets to you, because it's another way to have your information preserved so that you're able to be contacted.
It's wonderful. Well, I know, Justin, on another subject, here we are entering the July 4th holiday, but your team's been very busy in the month of June with the whirlwind tour of the Northeast with the new Lois Pope Red Star Rescue vehicle. Can you talk to us a little bit about that tour and what those folks who were able to participate learned?
Absolutely. It was actually a fabulous tour. We went to New York City, and we're on Fox News National, and we went to Homedale, New Jersey. We also went to Philadelphia and Alexandria, Virginia, and this really was a partnership through our sponsors with Banfield Pet Hospitals, and thanks to our fabulous sponsorship from Mars Pet Care US, we're the makers of Pedigree dog food. It allowed us to go out and speak to pet owners who had been affected by various different disasters and who may not have been affected at this point in time, but to really just drive the message home that disaster preparedness is important, because, nobody ever wants to think that a disaster is going to affect them. But once it does, it's already too late.
Yes, so very, very, very true. Just as you finished your tour, which was, I know, just a wonderful tour, I saw your segment on Fox, you were called into duty to assist with an alleged cat hoarder in the state of Pennsylvania. And sadly, we know this came right at the end of Adopt a Cat Month in June. Every June, our goal is to have more cats adopted out of shelters, but instances like this reminds us that pet owners must be responsible adopters. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened in Pennsylvania?
Sure. So basically, we provided some assistance with them on handling the case and trapped a few cats, and there was some deceased cats as well. And really what the message to drive home here is that there's so many animals out there, and the reality is that when you find a pet and you're looking for a pet to add to your family, you have to realize that this is a long-term commitment. You have to realize everything that's involved, everything from veterinary care to the basic necessities. It's not just a spur-of-the-moment decision. And I think that, Adopt a Cat Month is a great month. It's a time when a lot of cats and other animals are coming into shelters. I've actually just visited a few shelters this week and going to another one tomorrow, and they're all telling me the same thing. They're inundated with cats. They're inundated with dogs, and it's puppy and kitten season. So while it is a lifelong decision, if you're ready, and, the family is on board to do it, then now is also prime time to go visit your local shelter.
Well, Justin, that's a great message, and I have to tell you that the Ganserts were ready and willing to take up the call. In this month of June, Adopt a Cat Month, we brought home Rosebud, who was being fostered from Florida, to our home, and we just love her. And she's a cat. She's, 5, 6 years old, and we're so thrilled to provide Rosebud with the forever loving home. Lots of love happening for Rosebud, and we got her all stocked up with some great enrichments and toys, and she's having a great time. And anyway, just lots of loves and lots of belly rubs. So highly recommend that we add a 4-legged family member. There's still a few more days left in June, and certainly as we go into July 4th weekend, I do hope our listeners will take Justin's words to heart and help find some forever homes for our beloved canine and feline friends. Justin, what will your 4-legged family members be up to while you're out there enjoying the July 4th festivities?
My 4-legged family members will be safe and sound. They'll be inside, and, they'll be doing well. Then my family will probably attend some festivities, cookouts and things, and spend some quality family time together.
That's wonderful. And for those listeners who haven't had the privilege of meeting Justin yet and his beautiful family, 2 very precious daughters, and I know that you're all going to have a great time over the holiday weekend. Justin, thanks so much for all you do, and especially for your leadership of Red Star Rescue. It's just noble and laudable work that you do and your team members do each and every day. So thank you for saving so many lives.
No problem. Thank you so much for your support, Robin.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope all of you enjoy your long holiday weekend. I hope you get a lot of rest, relax, don't get too much sun, and remember to keep your precious pets cool. We'll be back very soon with another episode, particularly an episode coming from Capitol Hill, as we bring military working dogs to members of Congress and share their poignant stories of lives on the battlefields as they work with our soldiers to do so much great work for our nation. But until then, let's all remember to be humane. Happy birthday, America!
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.